Today we're going to be looking at inserting a table into your Word document. Topics are going to include how to insert the table into the Word document. There's several different ways to do this. We'll talk about entering text into the table once it's been inserted. Show you how to select the table or row or column. Show you how to create new rows or columns. We're going to give you the ability to delete a table. And then finally, we're going to look at some ways we can change the formatting of the table. We're going to need to open a file from the book, and so we're going to go to page 209 in order to open this file. On page 209, we need to scroll down a little bit, and we'll open up this doc file. We'll enable the editing. We're going to do a Save As on this file, placing it in my Documents folder. I'm going to create a new folder for this file and put in today's date. Open up that folder and add my initials to the end of this file. In this document, you'll see three different placeholders for three different types of tables that we're going to insert. We're going to start by talking about this Quick Table option. So we're going to click underneath the Quick Table option. And from here, we're going to go to the Insert tab. Whenever you insert a table into Microsoft Word, you're going to have to use the Insert tab to make that happen. Here you'll see the Table button. Most of the time you'll probably use this grid up here. We'll talk about this in just a moment, but for right now we want to go to Quick Tables. Quick Tables are very useful if you're wanting to insert something that already has a predefined table in it. The biggest one that I can think of, and the one that I will use from time to time, is these calendar items. So if you wish to insert a calendar into Microsoft Word, use one of these quick tables. The example in the book, however, is going to use this tabular list. So we're going to click on Tabular List, and here you will see a table that's been added to Word. It's already been predefined. It's got many options in here. All you would need to do is change the text here from the current settings to whatever text you would like to put in for your predefined table. The next option is we're going to use the Table Grid option in order to insert the table. This is the most common way of inserting a table, and so for that we're going to go to the Insert tab. Insert, and once again we're going to go to Table. And here we're going to use this predefined grid in order to insert our table. In this example, we wish to insert a 3x3 grid, which means 3 columns and 3 rows. So I'm going to come down to where I have 9 orange boxes selected on this grid, and when I click, it will insert a 3x3 table. We're going to come back to this in just a few moments and make some changes to it, but that inserts the table into the document. The last thing we're going to do as far as inserting a table is we're going to take a look at inserting a table using the table dialog box. So if you'll please click down below this setting, we're going to go to the Insert option one more time. Again, we're going to use this Table button. We're going to come down and use the Insert Table dialog box. For purposes of your certification exam, I highly recommend that you use this Insert Table dialog box. And the reason is very straightforward. Oftentimes, students will confuse the columns and the rows. Your certification exam will explain how many rows or columns to insert when inserting a table, and it's much easier to make sure that you have the right number of columns and the right number of rows by using the dialog box and matching the numbers to what the test question says. So here, if I were asked to create a table with 4 columns and 3 rows, I could choose this option here. The second reason why you might want to use this dialog box for the certification exam is because when it asks about autofit behavior, it may say on the certification exam to insert a 4x3 row and use the autofit content setting or use the autofit window. I'm going to click OK, and that inserts the table. Now that the table has been inserted, we want to talk for a second about deleting a table. Before we delete the table, we would want to select it. I want you to notice that each of these tables, if you put your cursor, your insertion point inside the table, you'll see this 4-headed arrow that appears in the top right corner of whatever table you happen to have your cursor in. That 4-headed arrow is basically a select all button for the table. So if you will, please select the entire last table by clicking on that select all button, and that will select that entire table. In order to delete a table, we need to go to the Table Tools ribbon tabs. There are 2 different ribbon tabs. Remember that these are called contextual tabs. There are 2 different contextual tabs related to tables. They are the Design tab and the Layout tab. To delete a table, we need to go to the Layout tab. And once on the Layout tab, you will see this button that says Delete. If you click on the drop-down arrow on the Delete button, there is an option for deleting cells, columns, rows, and the one that we want in this case is Delete Table. So we're going to delete that table to remove it from the document. Now, besides selecting a table, you may want to select an entire row. Selecting a row in a table is really no different than selecting a row in a paragraph. Clicking to the left of that row, remember this is called the selection area. If you click in the selection area to the left of any given row, it will select that entire row. Now, if you wish to select a column, then at this point what you would want to do is you would want to take your mouse and point at the top edge of the top row, and when you see that black downward pointing arrow, that would give you the ability to know that I can click and select that column of information. So, selecting a table, select a row, or select a column. At this point, we want to be in the first cell of this 3x3 table, and we're going to type some text in here. We're going to type Group A into the first cell, Group A. Then we're going to use our Tab key to move from one cell to the next. Pressing Tab in a table will move you to the next cell. Here we're going to type in Group B. Pressing Tab again, we can now type in Group C. Now that I'm at the end of row 1, if I press the Tab key again, I will see that that loops me around back underneath row 1. Actually, I'm in column 1, second row. Here we're going to type in manufacturing. Manufacturing. Pressing the Tab key again, we're going to type in marketing. And finally, after pressing Tab one more time, we're going to type in accounting. Let's say that I had or needed to have 4 columns instead of 3. I've got my Group A, Group B, Group C, but I needed a Group D. Here's what I can do. With my cursor anywhere in this last column, what I want to do is go back again to that Layout ribbon, that Layout Contextual Ribbon tab. And what I want to do is I want to insert. There are 4 insert options. I can insert above, insert below. Those are going to insert rows. Or I can insert left or insert right. In this case, since I want to insert a new column D, I'm going to say insert right. That inserts a new column. Clicking at the top of that column, I could type in my group D. Underneath group D, I'm going to go ahead and type in sales as the 4th listing in my group. If I want to change the format of the table, I want to add some color to my table. The best option for that is on my Design tab. Clicking on Design, you will see a variety of different table styles. These styles, when I click on the drop-down, will give me a lot of different choices that I can pick from. In this case, notice the group names. You've got plain tables, grid tables, and then we're going to come down to list tables. Under the list table, we are going to choose List Table 2, Accent 1. Alright, List Table 2, but I want accent number 1. That's going to be this one right here. When I apply a style, notice that it adds some coloring. Notice that some of the lines have disappeared because this particular table style does not have certain lines appear. You should note, again, going back to the, actually this is going to be on the Design tab, clicking on the Design tab, you'll notice these boxes. Header column. If you uncheck the header column, notice what it did. Okay, the items that were bold now become not bold. The reason why Group A is still bold is because first column is still selected. If I uncheck first column, now my Group A is no longer bold as well. Now, header row and first column does not always mean bold. Sometimes with different styles, it may change the color. It may change it to italics instead of bold. The point being is that these items will change or emphasize a column or a row depending on which one you're choosing. You also can turn on or off banded rows. Notice that every other row is a different color. If you uncheck banded rows, it removes that every other row coloring. In the same way, banded columns can add every other column coloring to your table as well. Now I do want to reset this back so that banded rows are selected and banded columns are not. So when you're done, you should have header row selected, first column selected, and finally the banded rows selected. All other items should not be selected at this point in time. Let's say that you want to change the look of this top row. I'm going to select the top row, and I'm going to make the size of the text size 14. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Home tab. And in the Home tab, I'm going to change the size of the first row to size 14. Let's get rid of the bold. I'm going to click on the bold button, and that will make the first row not bold in this particular case. Now, as I noted before, you don't see the columns. You don't see the lines that go up and down. If you move your mouse over the row here, you will see a double-headed arrow appearing where the column lines would be. Okay? What I want to do is I want to make those column lines visible even though they won't print. So what I want to do is turn those grid lines on even though they don't print. And for that, I'm going to go to the Layout ribbon tab, and there's an option that says View Grid Lines. At this point, I can now see those lines. But if I were to print this out, you will notice that those lines are dotted. If I were to print this out, those lines would not actually be visible on the screen. One of the last things we want to do is we want to go ahead and delete this group D. Alright, earlier we put this in. Now we're going to show you how you might delete a row or column. In this case, it would be a column. So I'm going to click anywhere in this group D column. It doesn't matter where. Once again, on my Layout tab, we're going to use this Delete button. But this time, instead of doing the Delete Table, which we did last time, we're going to do Delete Columns. That removes that particular column from the table, and I now have my 3 columns, 3 rows. I wish to remove the last row since there's no data on it, so I'm going to click anywhere in that last row. Once again, I choose my Delete option and choose Delete Rows. Well, that's it for the basics of inserting a table, adding rows and columns. So let's go ahead and save our work, clicking Save, and close this file. In this lesson, we showed you how to insert a table using the Insert Table button on the ribbon. We showed you how to enter the text into the table using the Tab key. We selected the table using that Select Table button in the top left corner of a table. We also showed you how to select a row or a column in the table. We showed you how to add, or it's called insert new rows or columns using the Layout ribbon tab. We showed you how to delete a table also using the ribbon tab. We showed you how to format the table, and the quickest way to format the table is by using Table Styles, which you find on the Design tab of the contextual tabs of the tables.